Welcome to another episode, a fun episode here on the Drive In Podcast Network. We have a fun episode today where Matthew Fox and I are going to be breaking down our favorite TV shows of 2024 so far. My name is Ricky Valero, and I am joined by Mr. Matthew Fox. How are you today, bud?
I'm doing good. It's hard to believe the year is almost half over. Where has it all
Almost.
gone?
It is.
Or is more than half over? But we've gotten some pretty excellent TV series so far.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm actually been pleasantly surprised, maybe you could even say, with some of the quality TV that we've gotten. So many things can be hit and miss. There's certain shows to me. I was going to say a show, but I don't know if it's in your top 10 or not. But
I can't wait for you to openly mock a couple of my choices. So
I probably will. But that being said, I'm kind of excited, I guess you could say, to see what your list is compared to my list. I know you watch a little bit more TV than I do. Full season wise, so I do know that you kind of at least dive into some stuff to kind of get an idea of whether, and I know that kind of also gives you a basis on whether or not you'd actually want to continue and finish it, which I think is a great thing about what you actually do because it does make it fun. But is there any shows that didn't make your top 10 that you want to kind of highlight first before we dive into our top 10s?
yeah, and so I'll give the caveat. The way that I always do it is, it has to have completed its run, and I have to have seen all of the episodes. So there are some shows for me that are currently airing, like Presumed Innocent and House of the Dragon, that probably will make my list that aren't there because they're not complete.
Well, there went to my list.
Well, I mean, everybody can do their list different. That's how I do mine. So, like at the end of last year, I didn't include like Fargo, which actually is on my list for 2024 because 3 or 4 of its episodes actually carried over, and they actually ended up being some of the best. But ones that are just on the outside for me, that I had fun with. I really enjoyed the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but it wasn't incredible standout. The finale episode itself I thought was pretty good. It's up, in that second 10 for me, but didn't quite make it up. You and I think, both enjoyed The Dynasty about the New England Patriots as sports fans. It's up, in that kind of second 10 group for me. And then one that just narrowly missed is Three Body Problem. And that's an interesting one because I actually intensely disliked the pilot. And people just kept saying, "Oh, you got to give it time. It's this dense mythology. You'll like it if you got it." And I didn't really care for episode 2, and usually that's where I'll bail. But I decided to give it a couple of more episodes, and I actually like the back half of the season more than the front half, and it was a real close. I have it sitting at 11 right now. If you read the print version, it was at 10, but I finished something this weekend that actually came out in June that I displaced it, which will probably equally piss you off.
I'm going to be honest with you. I fucking hated Three Body Problems. So that.
Did you finish that one though?
Yeah, I finished.
Oh, that's right. You were.
I had to write a recap for every episode. I would have gave up on that after like episode 3 because it was so bad. Honestly, I think I destroyed it. I think I gave it 1.5 stars. It's not the worst TV show of the year because that goes to Death and Other Details, which is by far one of the worst pieces of television.
Another one that I actually I finished it, but that's nowhere close to the
Constellation is pretty fucking terrible too.
I couldn't even finish that.
That was one of the worst things I've ever watched in my entire existence.
Apple has had kind of, normally Apple TV has been my go-to for a long time, but I'm actually scanning and I don't have a single Apple show in my top 10 right now. I have a couple in that next tier, but unless they finish a lot stronger than they started, it's been kind of a medium year for me for Apple.
There's one show obviously in my top
10. Presumed Innocent, I guess we'll end up
but it has been just okay. Now there is That's what I was looking at right now. I was looking at everything that came out this year from them, and or just looking at some of the shows. Like they've had some really underwhelming shows.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Masters of the Air. I didn't love it. I liked
I
The
liked Masters of the Air.
Dynasty. I didn't love it. I actually finished The Land of Women. I liked that one. Wouldn't say I totally loved it.
I like Dick Turpin. I thought that was funny, but nothing. It's not groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination.
I
One show that I
two
love,
is more episodes than I wish I would have seen of that.
the one show that I do love, basically, I love a lot on there, is the Big Door Prize. I'm a huge fan of that show. I'm sad it got canceled. That's one of the shows that just
Oh, I
misses.
didn't know it got canceled.
Yeah, it broke my heart whenever I found out it was canceled because it's really such a fantastic show. And it's a great show. I mean, it's just a great show. They have a new Lady in the Lake is a new show coming out that I've watched the pilot and I couldn't really get into. Very, very slow. The New Look wasn't very good.
Now that they've had a lot of
Manhunt
things.
was just okay.
I finished Manhunt. It was okay.
It was okay.
Franklin, I didn't even finish. I had some hope.
Yeah, Franklin. Yeah, that was So there's been they've had a very hit and miss season. Actually, looking at my list, I think I have one show on my list from Apple TV. My list is actually pretty spread from all over the place. I'm very pleased. I thought you would be pleased with my spreading of the love this year, because I'm looking at FX, I'm looking at Max, I'm looking at HBO, I'm looking at BET, I'm looking at Netflix, I'm looking at Peacock. You know what I mean? So I've got some. I actually have 2 shows in my top 10 from Apple now. I just realized, but yeah. So that being said, another show that just missed it. This is a show that I didn't expect to really love. I really did. The Silent Service, The Battle of Tokyo Bay. It was like the Americanized version of the movie. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty incredible. I thought the balance of the show was really interesting. It had some really good concepts to it. Kind of scary a little bit in some aspects if you really watched it. And let's see here. And you know what? I'm trying to figure out my last spot. So I'm going to say Fallout just missed my top 10 as well. Another show that I really enjoyed quite a bit. But all right, Fox, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to go 10, 9, 8 first. So give me your 10, 9, and 8.
So at number 10, this one debuted on June 27th, My Lady Jane. It's on Prime Video. It is loosely based on history. Lady Jane Grey, who is sometimes referred to as the 9 Days Queen, was kind of there in between Edward, who passed away, and Mary Queen of Scots, who took over. Those are both characters. This one's not really interested in a historical deep dive. It is kind of a mixture between a fairy tale and Bridgerton, which I know sounds weird. And even as I was watching the pilot, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do this. But it just, I kept going back, and then I finished all 8 episodes, and I really enjoyed it. And when it got to the end, I was like, man, I hope I get to see more of what's going to happen, which is always a good sign. So that one slides into 10 for me. Number 9 for me is The Gentleman, which came from Guy Ritchie. It shares a name with one of his feature films and an ethos, but it's a completely different story. Theo James and Kaya Scodelario are great in this. It's kind of a British crime saga. It's another one. The first couple episodes, which Guy Ritchie actually directed, are wild and got me into it, but I really enjoyed the characters and the ride. So that was one that I ended up finishing pretty quick. And number 8 for me is Abbott Elementary Season 3. They had a truncated 3rd season, but I was so glad when that show's back. It's like a warm hug, but the last few episodes of the season really upped the game. And were really memorable. I mean, they had Bradley Cooper appear in one of the episodes this season. They had Jalen Hurts. They are really leaning into a lot of things. And I think it's by far and away the best show on network TV. In fact, the only network TV show I have on my list.
It's one show that I'm dying to watch at some point. Network TV is kind of hard for me to watch. I know it's not as as crazy as it used to be. You know what I mean? I know that there's not as many episodes and stuff like that, but that's one show that I have heard. I don't think I've heard a single bad thing about that show from anybody.
It's kind of like The Office set at an elementary school. And
Yeah,
if you were a fan of The Office, you can kind of see the overarching way that they are doing the characters. It'd almost be The Office if it was intensely focused on Jim and Pam.
I like it. I like the idea of it. It's something, like I said, I've really wanted to kind of dive into because I think it's something that I could really see myself enjoying. Just because, I mean, I've seen like clips when you're on social media, I'm on TikTok, you see clips from the show. I know so many people that love the show. So 3 solid picks there. My 10 and 9 are very weird. And by weird, I mean, I didn't expect either of these shows to be on my list. But when I was really kind of looking at it, I was like, you know what? This is going to go on there just because I feel the need to have it on there. First up is going to be Tires. It's a Netflix show. Shane Gillis co-wrote the series with a bunch of his buddies. It's funny. It's outrageous. Shane Gillis is comedy gold when he's on. This show had me laughing start to finish. It's a very easy binge. It's a great ensemble. Funny script. I'm glad we're getting a second season of it. To me, it's just a perfect binge, right? You know what I mean? And I feel like it fits right in my 10 spot perfectly. It beat out a couple other shows just because it's like a breath of fresh air in this list of making, right? You know what I mean? When we're making lists, you're not always getting the like through and through comedies. You know what I mean? Like there's not many of those that really happen anymore that you really get. And this was just nonstop comedy. And speaking of comedies, coming in at number 9 was a show I never thought in a million years would be on my list. And that's Ted. Maybe one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. I love the Ted movies. I didn't expect this to be very good at all, but I just wanted to laugh, and I got way more than I kind of expected from it. I'm glad we're getting more of it. Again, they announced the second season. Max Burkholder was fantastic in this. This was one that I was like, how can they make this funny? And that to me was something I couldn't even imagine. And what made it really very confusing for me is when I found out that Max Burkholder also starred in Daddy Daycare and then also starred in the Purge movies. Was very confusing with me whenever I figured those two things out. So like this was like a grown-up version of understanding all of these things. But to me, one of the biggest surprises of the year, and I think it's just based on the fact that I didn't expect this to be good. And it blew me away. So I really loved it. Easy binge. So glad we're getting a second season. Coming in at number 8, I have Palm Royal. This was a show that I felt like was a honest blast. I love the twist and turns. I actually love how aesthetically pleasing it is, whether it's the costumes, whether it's the set design, whether it was the set pieces. I think this is one of my favorite ensemble casts. I really didn't know Ricky Martin could act. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like this dude blew me away and shocked me. Kristen Wiig is Kristen Wiig. The rest of the ensemble cast is a lot of fun. Just really loved it. Brought everything that I kind of really wanted together. And the twist really worked for me, and that's why it landed into the 8 slot for me. But yeah, Palm Royal number 8. Box 765.
Yep. So 7 for me is Ripley. It came out on Netflix. 8 episodes. Was originally done for Showtime. They sold it off in its entirety to Netflix. It's based on the Patricia Highsmith novel that had previously been adapted as a 99 film, The Talented Mr. Ripley with Matt Damon. Here we get Andrew Scott in the lead role. All of it written and directed by Steve Zalian. All of it shot in a really luscious black and white. Does a beautiful job building the tension, building a world, incredible cinematic and production values. Number 6 for me is one that was just out for you and was kind of a surprise for me, and that is Fallout. I couldn't pick that game out of a lineup I have never played the game, and I have no interest in the game. I do have a more than a passing interest in the Nolans, and I have enjoyed some of Jonathan Nolan's TV productions. And that pilot, including kicking off with those nuclear blasts, the visuals are incredible. Walton Goggins and Ella Purnell are very good in this series as well. I liked some of the twists and turns, the way they focused on characters. And even though I love Jonathan Nolan and his wife Lisa Joy, I think that it was the right move to have a couple of other writers, Geneva Robertson Dwart and Graham Wagner, do the show running, so that it injected a little bit of humor, which is something that is often missing from some of their more serious shows like Person of Interest and Westworld. So you had that great visual palette, some very creative sets, and then I really enjoyed the writing. Walton Goggins is incredible.
So good.
And then number 5 for me, another one that I had no idea I was going to love, and that is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Prime Video. Prime Video is having a pretty good year, at least for me so far, because we've done our first 6, and they have 3. With Jane Fallout and then Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I just really loved Donald Glover and what we got from and Maya Erskine, and their back and forth. The dialogue really hit and worked for me. The way the story was structured, I thought the movie was okay when we saw it. If you were like, the movie's not my favorite, so I'm not gonna watch the show, the TV show is nothing like the movie. It loosely borrows the concept, but this is a completely different thing. It too has been picked up for a second season, but I think that it's going to be an anthology series. That which is kind of the way, which is a real bummer for me. I don't know if I would be as in love with different characters and a different setup. It was really Maya Erskine and Donald Glover were great, and their chemistry was incredible.
Yeah, that's one that I missed. I haven't watched yet. That it's on my list to want to watch. Yeah, I like that one a lot. All right, my turn, right? Let's see here. All right, coming in at number 7 is The Bear season 3. I have seen a lot of hate for this season. I've seen a lot of hate for this season. And I think one of the things that it's funny because I watched season 2, love season 2, but I was also like, I kind of missed the kitchen. And then this season, you didn't get a whole lot of the kitchen. You know what I mean? It was a lot of different pieces that kind of come together. And to me, it just works. I think what works the most, obviously, is the cast. Episode 1 is one of the greatest like first episodes of a season I've seen like in a long time. I thought it was just, and it's crazy because nothing really happens, but it does, if that makes sense. A lot happens in that episode. Like it's such an emotional episode. There's very few things said, and Jeremy Allen White gives just this dynamic performance. And to me, I think the thing for me was, I think in saying this is the only reason it's a little bit lower on my list right now is just because I had more time to digest the rest of the shows that I have on the above it. I just finished The Bear, very recently, and which should mean it might be a little bit higher. But for me, it was like, I want to digest it a little bit more. Maybe when when the year comes to an end, it might creep up a little bit because I always watch The Bear twice just because it's that damn good of a show. Coming in at number six, a show that I loved a lot. It was number 1 for quite a while. Actually, not that long because there's another show that came around. But The Brother's Son was a show that released earlier this year on Netflix. I cannot believe this show got canceled. It breaks my heart that it got canceled. We renewed 3 Body Problems, but not this show. I love the action. I love the comedy. I love the drama. I love the cast. I wish we were getting more of it. It's fantastic. I don't care what anybody says about it. It is that good, period. I do not follow the same rules that Matthew Fox did. So coming in at number 5 is Presumed Innocent. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of the best actors of our time. I stand by that statement.
I
And
mean, we would have finished it if Apple let us.
I think that he's one of the best actors of our time. And Ruth Negga, I think, is not getting enough credit for the performance that she's giving in this show. I don't think I've seen as many people talking about Ruth's performance in this. I also don't see a lot of people saying a whole lot about Peter Sarsgaard's performance, who I think is just giving a lights out performance opposite of Jake Gyllenhaal. And whether you would think that he's a protagonist or antagonist, that's kind of how you are watching the series, I guess you could say, because there's some moments you're probably one way and then some moments you're the other way. And I think the quiet and subtle performance by Renee, Rensviv, I don't know how to say her name. So
yeah, Renee Rensme.
Rensviv,
People would recognize her from The Worst Person in the World.
yes. And to me, I know she's in the show, but she's not in the show type of thing. But I think the way her performance in this is kind of quiet and subtle really brings me in. I think this is a brilliant courtroom drama that reels you in, and I have absolutely loved every minute of it. So that's why it's made in my list.
So, six of 8 episodes have aired. I'm sure you, like me, have watched 7
Yes.
because the 7th one will come out Wednesday, and that's all Apple has made available. There have been developments this week that remind me why I won't jump the gun and put something in until I've finished it. We have spent our entire time believing this was a limited series, which is what they said it was, but since they now have renewed it for a second season, there are 2 possibilities. One, that the finale won't resolve anything, which would be incredibly disappointing to me, or 2, that it's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and it's going to become an anthology, because there's also rumors that Jake Gyllenhaal will only be involved as an executive producer in a second season. So I want to see the finale before I place it, but it's certainly, as I mentioned, it's tracking. I think House of the Dragon is tracking for me to be somewhere pretty high up on my list too. But House of the Dragon's only halfway through a season, and as we learned from season 8, there are a lot of ways for things to go right into the poop chute.
Well, I've seen a little bit more of that other show that you just mentioned, and that's why it's a little bit higher on my list.
But Presumed Innocent, it makes me nervous that they renewed it for a second season before we've had a chance to see the finale.
4, 3, 2.
Okay. So number 4 for me is Fargo season 5. It did start at the tail end of 2023, but it ended with its final episodes in January, and those final episodes were incredible. I am a huge No Country for Old Men fan, and there was a lot of resonant themes and styles from that film in this season of Fargo, and I think that's probably a little bit of why it worked for me. But its final 2 episodes, The Useless Hand and Bisquick, were incredible. And for a while at the outset of this year, this one was in the number 1 slot, but I have moved it down as I've finished some other things. That one is on Hulu, so you can stream that as FX on Hulu. And let me just tell you, it's been a big year so far for FX for me, because they own 3 of my top 4 spots. Number 3, though, for me is a show from the BBC that aired on PBS, so I'm sure it's not on Ricky's list, and that is Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. It is a 4-episode docudrama led by Toby Jones. It is about a group of sub-postmasters who basically got swindled by the postal system and ended up having to fight against the government for justice. And I know that sounds boring as hell. The description sounded boring as hell to me also, but I was never so grateful that my wife pays for like PBS on the go, where you can stream ahead on PBS shows, as when I watched the pilot for this, and then just watch the next 3 episodes and finish the series in one sitting. I was riveted by the characters in the drama. You'd recognize a lot of the British character actors, people we've seen in Downton Abbey and in some of these other shows. Toby Jones is great as kind of the focal anchor character. And there's something about the little guy having to fight against government injustice that really speaks to me, and so I loved this show. This is probably my most surprising entry on my countdown. Number two for me is another FX show that's on Hulu, and that is Shogun. That is the remake of the miniseries from 1980, based on the novel by James Clavell. This one, again, tonally, stylistically, what they do with everything, radically different from the 1980 one. Some great performances, just some incredible craft. This one also recently got renewed for a second season, and to say that I have mixed feelings is an understatement. I thought this was a great, contained, very emotional, very well produced limited series that's worth checking out. And we'll see. I could be surprised by a second season, but I not everything needs to have more, and this one to me was not one that I needed to have more, and so that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that statement. Coming in at number 4 is
If you don't
Diary.
have a PBS show, I'm going to be real disappointed.
Well, look, um
I'm just
I
kidding.
mean, I look.
It
Look.
wasn't on any of our bingo cards that I was going to pull a PBS show out of my hat.
I mean, I will say this. What if I tell you I'm pulling out a BET Plus show on you?
I mean, that's on the same level. That's good.
I mean, Dyra from Detroit, I think, is one of the best shows that people that nobody's really talking about. I do know they're pushing Dyra from Detroit big into the Emmys. Dyer Kilpatrick gives an incredible performance in the show. I think it's very much it falls under the it's on BET. You know what I mean? Like it follows a divorced school teacher who refuses to believe she's been ghosted by her rebound Tinder date. Her search for the missing man pulls her into a decade-old mystery involving the Detroit underworld. Like it's one of the best shows of the year. It's something that has been very dramatic. It's got some comedic elements to it. I think that it's very good. I binge watched it all in like 2 days. I was enamored to do it, and then I do believe, if I remember correctly, it's getting a second season, which I'm very very excited about. It's nothing but glow reviews. It was higher, obviously before my number 3, which is House of the Dragon season 2. I've watched a little bit more than Matthew Fox has. To me, one of the best ensemble casts that you'll see: Matthew Smith, Emma Darcy, Olivia Cook, Ewan Mitchell. All those 4 really obviously stand out to a lot of people. Ewan Mitchell, to me, I think is fantastic. I just think that he's just an evil piece of shit, and he does it very, very well.
His character, the man,
Yeah,
would be really
yes,
nice. He seems
yeah, sorry,
charming.
yeah, his character, yeah, he portrays his character of Aemon very, very well. I love you, Ewan Mitchell. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah, exactly. I know how these Game of Thrones fans are, so you know what I mean. You have to watch what you say. But yeah, those 2 shows. Number 2 for me, this one might get a little emotional. Okay. Because actually, you know what? That's probably Shogun's my number 2. Anasawa, Cosmo Jarvis, Tadanobu Asano, sorry for butchering your names, all carried the show. This is, in my opinion, one of the biggest spectacles that we've seen in recent time as far as TV shows. It's big, it's loud. And the thing about it is it was big and it was loud and it was worthy of being big and loud. We see so many different shows with big budgets that just come out swinging and missing, that time and time again. This to me was masterful. I agree, very cautiously optimistic about a season 2. I don't think that it needed a season 2. I agree with Matthew Fox when he says, to me, there's certain shows that don't need a second season. Sometimes it's okay having one season of something. By far the best show, one of the best shows. I would say it's probably my favorite show of 2024 so far, but there's just another show that pulls at my heart a little bit that I'm sad about. But this one to me is an easy run. All right.
I like how the landscape of TV is so varied and so diverse that each of us in the top 4 put in a show that the other one probably had never heard of. because I could tell you have never heard of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. I've never even heard of Dyra from Detroit. And you and I watch as many things as humanly possible. And so that kind of
You
just
know,
shows you how much stuff is out there. And some of the stuff on the margins or on these smaller platforms, you're missing out.
yeah, for me, what I think stood out to me about Dyra from Detroit was the fact that they reached out to me and asked me about it. I would have never in a million years would have watched it had it not been because of that. They reached out, said, "Hey, you want to watch it?" I was like, "For sure," and I watched it, and I was blown away by it. I still blown away by how good the show is. I think you should definitely anybody watching this should definitely check it out. All right, Fox, the time has come. Reveal your number one TV show of 2024 so far.
Well, and number one for me, I did a standalone video that you can find on the channel and on the site on Wednesday, so it won't be hard. I won't go, too much into detail, but it's The Bear season 3. I'm right there with you tomorrow. The premiere episode was just gutting and emotionally devastating in the best way. Beautiful, completely unlike anything we'd seen from the show or that you really have seen on TV. They had a number of standout episodes. Iowa Debris, her directorial debut, episode 6, Napkins, is beautiful and has an incredible scene with John Bernthal, who has not gotten enough credit. I think the way he pops up in this show in a very kind of thankless part and drives things forward. Um, you know, people didn't like it. I'll be honest. And I said this before, I actually think this is superior to season 2. And I didn't dislike season 2, but I think if you are willing to sit in discomfort season 3 and let season 3 wash over you, then you're really going to enjoy it. If you were looking for some kind of, I think this is the same issue to me that people had with season 2 and later season 3 of Ted Lasso. It wasn't the happy show they thought they were getting, and I think that's a misread a little bit of where The Bear was in season 1 and season 2. I don't think it's ever been happy as in these people were happy and everything was happy. And when both of these shows deal with mental instability in their own ways or mental health challenges in their own ways and the brokenness of people, and I'm more than okay with letting people be broken, because you know what? Not everybody is able to put themselves together the way you want them to, or the way that we magically get on the Hallmark Channel. But I know, a lot of American audiences don't want that. A lot of audiences in general don't want to be confronted with something that they might be struggling with themselves. And I feel like that's a little bit of the pull against season 3, which is definitely darker. I mean, you're on and they leave you with unanswered, very hard questions for all those characters, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, to me, it's just because I finished it so recently. I feel like once I like to rewatch The Bear twice. To me, it's something that I really watch and I just kind of study a little bit. I think I do too. I think I like it better than season 2 myself as well so far in my head. The finale of season 2 was so fucking good, but it's just an incredible show. I think it's mind blowing that they turn this show around so fast. The show had like just got done being like edited and put together 2 weeks before like it aired, which is pretty crazy to even think about that they're turning it around that fast. And I think they're smart for doing that. It's fresh in their minds. Also think they did it because of Emmy voting purposes, but that's it's neither here or there. Just an incredible.
Which it won't really matter because season 3 is outside of this current Emmy window.
Well, no,
season
yeah,
2 would be.
but they're voting.
Oh, yeah.
In the midst of it. So it's like, oh, let me go ahead and turn on season 3 while I'm thinking about voting for season 2. And it's like, you watch the first episode of season 3 if you're trying to think of where I might vote for best actor or whatever it is. And it's like, you watch the first episode, you're like, Jeremy Allen White, check. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of the best performances I think I've ever seen in like an episodic television. Like, it was beautiful. It was actually crazy. All right, my number one show of 2024, a show that I love dearly. It's a show that has been canceled, and it breaks my fucking heart that it's been canceled. And it's Tokyo Vice season 2. Um, it's it's a show that shocked me. It shocked me to even like that I even really liked it. You know what I mean? Like it's just not something that would I thought would be up my tea, but the journalism aspect of it's very intriguing. And then you throw the English journalism inside, Tokyo, and then you have like that mob atmosphere and stuff like that within it, and or the kind of mob gang atmosphere. Show Kasumatsu, like this show again, I don't understand. Like this show should be the entire cast, the showrunners, the creators, all of this should be within the conversations of some of the best performances that we've seen this year. It should be nominated for Emmys, multiple Emmys. I firmly believe that this season was so good. It's honestly one of my favorite shows of like the last decade. It would probably be in my top 10 easily of the last decade, like of shows, especially since obviously we're only 4 years into this decade or whatever, but even 4 years, that's a lot of damn television. Matthew Fox can, attest to that. But to me, Tokyo Vice, one of my favorite shows of the year, by far this season. Between this and Shogun, I feel like it's a 1A, 1B scenario for me, to be honest with you. But I love it. I love it. There's not much else I can say about it other than I love it. I think it's just a mastercraft of storytelling. It's a mastercraft of allowing these characters develop and write these stories so pointedly, twists, turns, all the way around. Just to be honest with you, if I had the opportunity to vote, Sho Kasumatsu would be the front runner for every damn male performance in a drama series there is, because it was amazing this year. So yeah. Before we go, Fox, go ahead and recap your top 10 for everybody at home so I could clip this and post it on the social medias.
Yep. So at number 10 for me, My Lady Jane, Prime Video. Number 9, I have The Gentleman from Netflix. Number 8, Abbott Elementary, Season 3, which you can binge on Hulu. Number 7, Ripley, which is on Netflix. At number 6, I had Fallout, which is also on Prime Video. And number 5, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, also on Prime Video. Number 4, I have Fargo, Season 5, which you can catch up with on Hulu. Number 3, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, which is streaming through PBS. Number 2, Shogun, which is on Hulu. And number 1, The Bear, Season 3, which is also on Hulu.
All right, my top 10. Number 10, I have Tires, which is on Netflix. Ted, coming in at number 9, which is on Peacock. Number 8, I have Palm Royale, which you can watch on Apple TV+. Then on number 7, I have The Bear, which is obviously on Hulu. Number 6, The Brother Son, which you can check out on Netflix. Number 5, I keep on figuring out the wrong number on my hair. Number 5, Presumed Innocent, which you can watch on Apple TV+. Diarrhea from Detroit, which is on BET+. House of the Dragon Season 2, which is on Max. Shogun, number 2, which you can catch on Hulu. And then Tokyo Vice, which you can catch on Max's Season 2, 1 and 2 are available on Max. Please, some streaming studio, pick it up for a 3rd season. I would love you so much. So, but yeah, we will be back soon to talk about something else. Who knows what it is? Fox and I just like to randomly drop some podcasts here and there. If you're watching this, check out the other shows here on the Drive-In Podcast Network, because we got a lot of them cooking. And we have This Week at the Movies. Matthew Fox periodically drops some movie reviews on the Drive-In Podcast Network. Obviously, check out the MusicCityDriveIn.com for some movie reviews, TV reviews, and all that good stuff. And then, of course, check out the Popcorn People Podcast. Check out all my Love and Reality TV stuff, which I purposely left off my list, but I almost added one show on there. But yeah, Fox, thanks for joining me, and we'll have to do this again soon, sir.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Go stream something on PBS, like you said.